Welcome to the Love That For Us podcast.
Come hang out with us as we explore a holistic approach to entrepreneurship, wellness, and navigating relationships in adulthood.
We'll be getting vulnerable about life and dishing the business expertise we've learned along the way, interviewing industry professionals,
All while you get your weekly dose of girl talk and heart to hearts. We're your hosts, Carissa Emiko,
and Ashton Brooke.
and this is the Love That For Us podcast. Anna, welcome to the Love That For Us podcast. We're so happy you're here.
Me, girlies.
Yeah.
This is so fun.
I know. I just got all excited once the recording just started. I just got all giggly and bubbly like a little high school girl. Okay,
was
you guys, we have
long-awaited.
Anna. It is. We have Anna Comer here today. She is the co-founder of Parchmate, the all-in-one social media management app for social media managers and content creators. She's a good friend of both mine and Ashton's. We were reflecting back to our first experience of you and then also meeting you, Anna. And I think we all for the first time met on Silver Retreat, right?
In
That's when I met
Utah.
you in person for the 1st
Mhm.
time.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Anna, as you guys know, Ashton and I used to be brand partners with Young Living. That's how we met Anna, she was also a brand partner with Young Living. That's how we kind of all came into each other's worlds. And none of us do that anymore, but here we are. We've all moved on a little bit. Do you remember
Stayed
when
connected.
we drilled you? We drilled you about how to stay relevant with Gen Z. Do you remember that?
Yes. We were sitting in that taco nacho restaurant, and
Yes.
you were like, "Tell us how to be cool." And I was like, "I don't know."
How do we use TikTok?
Because how old are you, Anna?
I'm 25.
So you're
25.
are you considered, you're a Gen Z millennial cusper, right?
I am. They have a name for us. I don't know what it is, like Zillennial or something, but I was
Oh,
born in
okay. I didn't know
98,
that.
so I'm technically I was an infant millennial, and so I had a millennial childhood, but definitely relate more to Gen Z.
Do you? I was going to ask.
Yeah. It's so weird. And some things, but then there are things that millennials will do and I'm like, "Oh, no." You know?
Tell us.
But then
Wait,
there's things
what's
that Gen Z
cringy?
does.
Drop some
there's-
specifics.
Tell me a cringy thing I do.
Oh no. It's so funny. It's there's the obvious ones, like how certain millennials, specifically older millennials, will utilize social media. But some things that I've noticed recently are how certain millennials are utilizing Canva in graphic design. And it just it's come up a little bit more recently where it's it's a very similar palette and it's pretty much the same 4 serif fonts, and you just know you can spot it and you can say, I know who designed that.
You know,
In Canva.
I know what year you were born by looking at the font you're using.
Yeah. But it's not bad. It's not it's ugly or anything. It works. It's just, you
No.
just know. And then there's a certain flavor or flair that the younger generation is bringing in that I'm I don't know if I can get on it. There are just things that
Yeah.
I'm that might be a bit much for me. Or certain Gen Z fashion things that I'm we don't relate.
You can't
in that
relate. Yeah.
capacity.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Fascinating.
really-
It's so interesting to ride that line.
I am really glad that skinny jeans are donezo, though, I will say. When I look back at a picture of myself in skinny jeans, I'm like, what was happening? Really, what was
I know.
happening?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so you recently launched and are the co-founder of Parchmate, and I really want to get into all of that a bit later. We'll get into that, but I really would love for you to just share with us your entrepreneurial backstory. You're someone who's pivoted multiple times. You're in your mid-20s.
So many times.
Where did your entrepreneurial journey start? When did you even start using social media for content creation? And just where did it all begin? Take us back.
Oh my gosh. Taking you back. We're rolling the tape. Well, I essentially, I guess, got my start in 2017. I had just graduated beauty school. My plan was never really to go to college. I honestly just kind of struggled with deciding on what to do with my life. And so was like, I'm not in the headspace to choose a major for myself right now. And so took a gap year, went to beauty school, and started nannying full time. And kind of around that time had started experiencing some health things related to like my hormonal health, and started doing some research, discovered Young Living and network marketing. Really had no intention of building a business, didn't really even understand anything about MLMs or network marketing, and decided I was going to start a separate Instagram account to sort of document my health journey, my gut health journey, like a diary. I had always been fascinated by like bloggers. I had followed some of those like early influencers and their like, you know, blogs like Amber Fillerup and Teza and so many of the others who were also like simultaneously blogging as they were posting on socials. And so really loved that. Started that in like 2016, 2017. And for about 4 years ran full time, like full speed ahead into social selling and network marketing. And for that period of time, I would say for like at least the first 2 years was thriving, like absolutely loved life, found so many things I loved about myself, learned so many things. And around that time, I'd also found some pretty great like success there financially. And
you're what age
husband,
when you really jumped into that?
I guess I was 19.
Wow.
18 or 19.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think I was 19 when I hit silver. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was living alone in an apartment by myself. I was like, this is living. I but it was amazing. And I had such a great time. And around that time, my husband, we weren't married yet. Actually, yes, we were. Yes, we had gotten married in 2020, COVID bride. Our original wedding date was March 29th, which was like,
wait, so how
fun.
old were you when you got married?
I was 21.
Okay. Isn't that how old you were, Ashton?
When I got married.
Were you 20?
I was almost 21, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Crazy.
So you were youngin. I mean, I can't believe you hit silver with Young Living when you were 19. Like, that is so young. And I remember being in Young Living thinking like, whoa, this girl's so cool. Like, she's so young. Like, I wish I started this when I was 19. Like, I feel like you were really like making a mark as someone that age, like really finding success in network marketing at that time.
Well, and I remember being in our community, it was like mostly moms. And so I was onboarding a lot of young adults and like young single college students. And so I remember so much of like how I marketed and like tailored, you know, education was to that like age group. And so it just felt different. It was really fun. I remember I actually think I hit silver that like fall, November. So I might have been 20. I can't remember. But I had hosted my first like team retreat, and I had 21 girls who were in my like team or my community who came, and it was just like, this is crazy. Like, I remember sitting there just being like, I can't believe this is my life. But during all of that, after I got married, my husband and I pretty shortly after, it was like 6 or 9 months after being married, moved to Wilmington, North Carolina. So about like 3 hours towards the coast. And I was so happy to have moved. We had the sweetest community, wanted to be close to the beach. But during all of that is when we came up with the idea for our online subscription for brand partners. And so this was honestly, I think, when everything kind of like took a shift and a turn for us, because it was like around that time, also current like COVID season, there were a lot of people who were just beginning to dabble in like digital products and courses and subscriptions. And so I had seen it kind of pop up. I had just kind of started email marketing for my Young Living business. I was also blogging. I had a website. I was like learning about SEO. I was like kind of dabbling in some blogging, you know, info. I was doing a ton of like Canva design and just like self-made graphic designer, and was like kind of just like dabbling. Had my hands in a lot of different pots. Had just started affiliate marketing with like Amazon. And I remember when Austin and I had a conversation. We had just moved into this house, and he started like kicking around these ideas about like creating marketing resources for brand partners that weren't people that were just in my team, in my, community. Right. And so that was through a couple, crazy series of events, couple of months, we launched a like full marketing subscription. We provided digital assets, photos, videos, pre-written education, pre-written emails, Canva templates, like everything, every single month. And I was also releasing like one educational class that could be transitioned or transformed into a text class or an email or whatever.
How the heck did you just like create this out of nothing? Because that's so much work.
It's a ton of work.
You must have been buried in this. If it's every single month new stuff, it's not like you're really recycling a ton. That's just, I don't know, props to you, because
we were doing
everything
from scratch. Yeah, right. We were doing everything from scratch. Thankfully, at the time, all I was doing was Young Living. That was like my full-time income. And my husband had done cinematography for 5 years, was kind of taking like a career shift during COVID. And he was like, I think this could work. Like, let's just do it. And so both of us kind of had the freedom at that time. We weren't balancing other jobs, having to be, in office 9 to 5 and then coming home. Like we were just home. So we were working. And I remember our first, like the week of launch, I had done a bunch of like research on how to launch, a product. And so I was learning all about email funnels and campaigns and follow-up and all of this like marketing strategy I knew nothing about. It was like a world of marketing that just like the doors swung wide open. And so to make a really long story short, that subscription we kept open for 2 years. We did open and closed enrollment. We grew it to about 350 members at about $20 a month. And that was like life-changing money. I remember we were both just like, is this happening? That's so much. Wow. And we got to a point where we had some pretty good systems, and, we were working maybe like a week out of the month on like the photos and videos. And then I would kind of like here and there throughout the month create the templates. And then we would do like one big monthly exclusive, whatever that class or education was. And so we got into a good rhythm where it was like, it didn't feel like we were drowning as much, maybe after like 6 months of running it.
Okay, wait, I have to ask like a curious question, because you are just full blown running a business at this time. And now actually with Parchmate, like with your husband, like, do you guys want to kill each other every day? Do you work really well? Like, what does that look like? Because just curious, like at that time, that was probably the first time that you guys had worked together, right? In something that, starting a business. Yeah. So what was that like working with your husband?
So we joke about it now with Parchmate, because I think that membership is like what trained us and like prepped us to work together, because there were definitely some instances that ended in tears and we wanted to kill each other with love, but also we were newlyweds. So there's like fresh grace when you're like freshly married, that is just, and I think also a lot of it was just like learning our styles are so different, and everything we do, the way that we thought was different. And he would come to me with like an idea about, let's say, like something more stale in the marketing world that wasn't like as flashy and fun. And I'd be like, please don't make me do that. Please don't make me do that. Like, I want to do that as much as I want to like, XYZ. And we would like go back and forth, and he'd be like, well, the things that you want to do aren't going to move the needle like this and do. And with love and grace. And we would just like butt heads so much. And then I would see someone like Jenna Kutcher or another like leader in the industry or whatever pitch the same idea to me in like a girly pop fun aesthetic way. And I'd be like, oh my gosh, babe, we got to do this. And he'd be like, this is what I've been telling you. So it was more so just learning like how to communicate with each other and how I needed him to make things more fun for me and whatever. But now I feel like it's definitely helped us.
Right. Okay. So you guys grew that, and how did that wind down? Like what came next in that? Yeah. This is where we get to like the breakdown of the story.
So how did we land the plane?
How did we land that plane that we flew so high?
We were just flying. So yeah, but I mean, I don't know how much you guys want me to share.
Hey,
but
as much as you want.
I'm really thirsty for some tea, so.
The tea. Is the tea ready? No, I mean, essentially, as most, I don't say most, in our specific situation, post-COVID, as the numbers started to plateau, I remember we had a required field in our membership was called the Cabana. I don't know if I said that. We had a required field if you want to cancel your membership with the Cabana to give us like a reason for canceling. And we started seeing this trend. Honestly, we didn't have like high churn. It was like people would sign up and they'd be signed up for months. And we're very engaged in our Facebook group and our community group, and we're really loving the resources and giving us really good feedback. And then we started to see this trend of people canceling their Cabana account, and it would go something like this. It'd be like, we love you guys. We love the Cabana. We love your resources. I'm just no longer pursuing my business anymore. Or I'm taking a step back from my business. And it was like, we started to see it. And I think both of us were like, okay, this is outside of our control. This is just going to run its course, and it has nothing to do with the product that we're offering or the value that we're offering, but more so just like the, atmosphere or the environment that we built it in. And so as that started to drop, as did my personal Young Living business. And so it was kind of just like, we kind of saw this like trickle. And so I think the both of us were like, okay, what are we going to do? Like, what are we doing? And around that time, I had actually started working part-time at a boutique, because for about 2 years, I was working for myself from home alone. And I'm a very relational individual. So I started working part-time just to like get around people. But then very quickly took on a management position and a marketing position for that boutique. She didn't have anybody writing her socials for her or her emails for her. And I was like, I can do that. So I took that on around the same time that all of this was happening. And had never really considered social media management before and didn't really know that much about it. I mean, I knew people were doing it, but I didn't really know like the ins and outs. I just knew like how I ran my socials. And so after we had decided, pretty much, it was honestly all kind of happened very fast. I decided to take a step away from my business. And it was pretty much like, I knew I was done at that point. But it was like, let's just take a step away and like see what happens in a couple months. But I knew like internally, I was like, my chapter with this is closed. And
relatable.
Had to like go through a whole emotional,
Did you go through the 5 stages of grief?
100%. I was unwell. It was so hard. Because you just it's grief. It's what it is. It's just grief.
Yeah, I mean, you have this idea of like where you're going to go and what the future is going to look like. And especially for you to have pursued this first entrepreneurial journey with your husband and be like you said, like you're just like a young married couple where like, this is great. Like, this is awesome. And you just have these big dreams and you see it going up and up and up, and then kind of feels like out of your control. It's actually going down and down and down. And what do we do? And you like go from like living the high life to like, what's my plan B? And like, shit, did I have a plan B? And like, what do we do now? And that's not a fun place to be. And I feel like that's so relatable, especially for young entrepreneurs, because if you look at anybody who is immensely successful millionaires, like they're millionaires because of their 50th attempt at entrepreneurship, not because of their first, right? Like it's not like it worked out for them the first time. And so like when we're young and all starting these entrepreneurial businesses, it's like they maybe have this short-term success, but then they could flop. And then it's like, okay, what's the next thing? What's the next thing? And also, what's your Enneagram number? Because I feel like I want to know that. I think I know what it is, but...
I think, honestly, I've tested in the past, and it's been so long, but when I tested, it was like I would get either a 3 or a 4 as my main Enneagram number, and then like either like a strong wing on either side. So I'm in there somewhere, 3 or 4.
Right. Okay, so take us through, what was that like for you to process the income change, the like grace for yourself, but also like the pressure to replace that, and like what's next? Like what was your processing of that like in the grief?
So basically what happened was, in the timeline, I decided I wasn't pursuing my Young Living business anymore, but we kept the Cabana, the membership, open for like another 6 or 7 months. So we had that income. I still was getting a paycheck. I just wasn't running my business. And also at that time, there was a lot of shifting happening within the industry. People were leaving to go to other companies. So there was a lot of like, if I honestly just took the road of like, I'm just going to be quiet and I'm just going to lay low because there was just a lot of additional political stuff happening within the companies. And so we kind of kept the cabana going and had my paycheck coming, but I had no intention of basically moving on into trying to build elsewhere. And so I kind of just buckled down into social media management. And so that looked like I onboarded 2 other clients. And one of them, so I had 2 that were local, including that boutique. And then I took on a remote job working with a client who was in Charlotte. And around that time, Austin was also looking for work because he was like, okay, the cabana isn't where it was at. And also still hadn't really decided what direction he wanted to go with. And so had started doing some like blue collar work, was doing home renovation, started working and building sheds with a company here. And so we both were just like, what are we doing? This is not what we signed up for. Like, and I remember telling him, I'm like, we're smart. Like, we are smart young people who have a lot of experience in things and like cannot figure out
so much to offer.
I was like, we have so much to offer. No, but I was just like really struggling with like purpose, and so was he. And so it was honestly a really tough year. Like that was all of 2023. Like I decided to step back in February, and then pretty much spent like that whole summer. I was like doing social media management, was learning so much, but like didn't know, it wasn't my plan. And so I was so like caught up in this like, how am I going to scale this? This isn't scalable. Like, you know, just like all of these things. I was like, this looks nothing like the business I originally started with. And so really struggled with that. And I think Austin was kind of in a similar boat. So fast forward, we closed the cabana in September. And around this time, Austin came to me and was like, I want to pursue software development. And I was like, that's great. How do you do that? I knew nothing about software. I knew nothing about, you know, development or anything like that. And he was like, I'm going to teach myself. And I was like, you go, sweetie.
You go. Cheering you on.
I knew nothing. Like he was like, yeah, I think I want to like, you know, kind of pursue something more front end. And he started telling me all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, like I'll support you. Like you go. And I was like, we both had to give each other room to figure it out. And so there was a lot of just like, all right, I'm gonna keep doing this. You do that.
Right.
And we'll see how it goes. And so that was in, like around that time, probably fall, November, December. And actually, wait, I'm getting my timeline mixed up. Let me rephrase.
You got
that
this.
Decision happened, I want to say, around the same time that I had left Young Living. Like that was earlier in the year because he actually had applied for a job that December. So he had already known that he was wanting to pursue that at that point. Sorry. So I think honestly, to answer your question, emotionally, I felt very discouraged. I felt super guilty. I felt like a failure. I just like everything that I had set out to do, I didn't accomplish. And so had to really process through a lot of those emotions. And also had to process feelings of watching friends of mine who left the company I was at, then have success in another company, and then question my decision not to go to another company. And just like all sorts of things that was just like, am I making the right decision for myself? And having to like go back into this, I've never been in this situation before. Like this is a new situation and I don't necessarily feel that equipped to handle it. And so had to like process through a lot of that. And I will say after the grief of like grieving my expectations, I think I moved into this place of like, it's okay if I don't do big, crazy, amazing entrepreneurial things. Like, not like I gave up hope, but just like I need to be content and okay with working a normal job. And that's not a bad thing. Like everybody works.
Right.
Right. Like
okay.
separating this this like value and worth. We've talked about that, I feel like, on some of our episodes. Like, obviously Chris and I come from this entrepreneurial point of view, but never from this place where it's like there's more worth and more value in it when you are working for yourself and scaling anything you're doing. But that would be so hard to have something out of your control happen with something you have scaled to success, and then be in this place where you're like, this isn't fun. This isn't what I've expected. It's not even necessarily what I want to do working for someone else. And then to have to battle like all these subconscious thoughts or very conscious thoughts of like, am I valuable because of this? Like, do I just no longer have things to offer? That sounds hard. And it's kind of like compounded grief probably in what you were trying to process through. Not to mention you and Austin doing that kind of simultaneously, because that I think is more unique, where you and your partner having kind of the same work scenario playing out. I think for Will and I, we've always been at different places with like pivots in our careers. To be in that in the same space and same time feels really hard. So props to you guys for just buckling down in that place and working through it together. That's not easy.
No, thank you.
I would love to
it definitely was.
Ask a little bit of a level deeper question off something you said, because you're saying like, okay, this didn't work out and you're dealing with all these feelings, and you mentioned one of them being guilt. What was that guilt being driven by? Like, what were you feeling guilty about with how your business ended how you didn't expect it to?
I honestly, the guilt was like, it's multifaceted. So I would say originally it probably started more so because of the nature of the industry I was in, just because it's so community focused and relational. And so, you know, I pitched a dream, and I pitched a dream really well and had a lot of people buy into the dream. So I think more so processing that guilt that I felt that was like, not, this isn't what I thought, but also this isn't what I told you it was going to be. It didn't matter that it was outside of my control.
Right. I had that as well, of this like, was that, am I a bad person? Like, did I fuck up there because I was saying this thing that I believed in at the time and then changed my mind on? Oh, I had a wider look of what was going on. And okay. Yeah, I got it. That totally makes sense.
Yeah. And then I would say the second level, or the second part of that was, I think maybe it wasn't necessarily guilt as much as it was more, maybe it was shame probably, where I felt, like, I guess that I had this expectation of who I would become, or who I was even. As far as a successful entrepreneur at 23, 24 years old. And, you know, I did the thing I said I was going to do. And then when it ended in the way I didn't want it to, or didn't see, because honestly, like that, the way that it ended was not at all on my radar. Like, it wasn't like I just plateaued at the success level that I was at, because I would have been okay with that, I think. I just hadn't even like, which maybe that was silly, hadn't even like considered what a steady decline would have looked like. And also watching my friends leave and all of just everything that transpired. And so I think I just had a lot of shame mixed with the guilt, just about like, you know.
Yeah. And when you build up like, when you build a presence on social media surrounded by a certain thing, and that's what you're getting externally the attention for, and the likes and the followers, there is, like, we've talked about that a lot, like there's an ego death that you have to go through, where you're like, okay, that is not what I'm getting attention for anymore, or like this is shifting very big, and I thought this was going to keep growing, and it really just does affect. It checks you into knowing where your worth is and knowing where your value comes from. And you have to like do those readjustments, and very relatable, sure. very, very relatable.
Definitely.
I'm sure to a lot of people listening too. Okay. So Austin starts looking into UX, UI, design, development. You're taking on social media management. And I know that's kind of where Parchmate started to be born, right? Like when I like talk to us about how those conversations started with you and Austin from you as a social media manager yourself lacking in systems. Like talk to us about that.
I laugh because it's just like he would be like, what are you doing? And I'd be like, well, this is how I do this, and this is where this goes, and this is where my captions live. And then he'd be like, honey, you need a system. And honestly, I think those conversations, when Austin decided that was the kind of like the vein he wanted to pursue, he did it purely out of, I think this is a safe career path, not at all to pursue anything entrepreneurial originally. It was more so like learn to code so I can get a corporate 9 to 5 job.
Like he was applying
some,
for
security.
Jobs. Yeah.
And neither of us had, like, we didn't exist on LinkedIn, like either of us. Like we had both just like done like freelance, solo stuff. And so I remember him coming down and he was like, yeah, I've been watching all these YouTube videos on like how to set up my LinkedIn. And I was like, LinkedIn? Do I need to be on LinkedIn? God, please, no.
It's giving millennial.
Yeah. Exactly. And so I remember he was more so thinking about it out of that vein. But then we would have these conversations like, it'd be so cool to do something like the Cabana again, or gosh, remember how nice it was to like have our Stripe just like pay us every day. And like we would have these like conversations, like maybe one day we'll get back into like a solo entrepreneurial thing. But right now, that's not what we're doing. Right now, we're trying to survive. And I remember the story of how he got his job is actually so cool. I kind of want to share it.
Yeah, please.
Basically, briefly, he had applied to so many jobs, but the developer like environment right now is work-wise is not great. And like we were like, who's going to hire someone who doesn't have a degree and has no experience? And so he would just like apply to everything and was going to these tech meetups and networking locally and all this. But essentially, there's a startup here that's local and they had just received some funding, and he reached out to the founder to congratulate him and also just, hey, if you ever have like a free internship or opportunities like that, I would love an opportunity to work with
And this was like via LinkedIn. He reached out, right? Like through
via LinkedIn, a LinkedIn DM.
LOL.
I don't even know what they call it. It's like a message. And so through a series of events, a series of interviews, they actually hired him as a contract front-end developer. And I remember when he got hired as a contractor, we were both like, you got a job. Wow, this is crazy. And long story short, they extended his contract full time and he's had like an incredible experience there. But it's been quite the adjustment. He has to be in office 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And so that was definitely like, I think he kind of took one for the team, Yeah. But it was worth it because pretty much shortly after they hired him, I think in October. And about like 8 weeks into that job was when he was like, we should talk about building something. We need to build something. And I was like, I don't know what we should build. And so we started having all these conversations and we were trying to network with people in different industries. And he started really immersing himself in like the SaaS world and startup. And I was just a little do-to-do girl, like posting on Instagram for my clients. And when we finally had this conversation where I was like, I really just wish that there was, like a content management software that was pretty. Because I was like, if it's pretty, I'll use it.
Right.
And I've still used Flowdesk as like my all-time favorite software. I'm like a absolute groupie fan of those two girls and everything that they do. But we had kind of started kicking around this idea of building some sort of like full stack, all-in-one, like build your digital online business software where like you manage all your socials and you could build your digital products and la la la. And then as we started talking more and there were more like ideations between the both of us, we were like, okay, this isn't actually what people need. People just need like help running their social media. They just need ideas on what to post. And started following, you know, some of these Instagram educators and marketing educators. And a lot of them had these online subscriptions where they would give you like, you know, a month's worth of content ideas for $47 a month. And then they had some that were like a little bit more, they were more specific to you and your business. And they were charging like upwards of like a couple $100s a month for like specific content plans for your business. And I would like look at the comments of some of these posts and some of these creators, and I'm like, they're killing it. Like, because people are genuinely, they need help. Like they need help running their strategy. And these small business owners didn't sign up to be content creators. Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
It's so out of their field.
Yeah. And so we were like, okay, let's build an idea generator. You know, using AI assistants, we'll put your information about your business and it'll generate content ideas for you. So then we were like, let's just test it as a service. And so all of these conversations happened in the span of like 6 weeks between him and I. And I remember when I created the Instagram account, first he was like, we need a name. And I was like, okay, well, we just need a place for people to brainstorm, kind of like pen to paper. Because I was like, I'm such a pen to paper girl. And I kept saying it. And I was like, oh, it's pen to parchment.
And so that's how, I didn't know that's where the name came from. That's so cute.
Yeah. And so that was how we came up with Parchmate, because it was going to like help you put pen to paper in coming up with your ideas. And so I remember when I made the Instagram and I was like, I have no idea what we're going to post on this, but it's here. Like we got it, you know, like it's when you like buy a domain, you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I own it.
But I got it. But when I want to put something up, it's mine.
Yeah. So we launched originally Parchmate as a service, meaning I was offering to make free content plans for businesses. So I was like, I just want to know if people even want this. So in January, started posting kind of like Instagram education, social media education, how to get strategic about your content plans. And anytime anyone would comment, I would like DM them and be like, do you want me to give you one for free? Like, do you want to just get on a call and like tell me about your business? And like, I'll make a content plan for you. And started getting really great feedback from that. And so that was originally how it all like started.
And you're giving this away for free because you want experience, you want reviews. Like what's really your motivation in that hustle phase?
It's all research. Everything is research.
Mm-hmm.
And from listening to some of these like startups, it's like, the only way that you know if you're going to build something that's like worth anything is if you know your like ideal user and what they want. And so a lot of those calls were just more so like, okay, you're a random small business owner, you have a very niche business and you need help, you know, managing your social media, but you don't have the budget to hire a manager or an agency. So like, how can we help you? Like, what could we build that helps you essentially do that better? But we also were kind of doing it to just see like, who in my current audience even was like, had moved on or needed that type of support. Because originally my entire audience were other Young Living brand partners or, you know, people who were trying to pursue like clean living or like, you know, health and wellness. And so I was like, my audience is not business owners or people like social media managers. Like nobody even knew I was doing social media management online. So the reason we kind of ran with that was for that purpose was like research and also just like trying to build that type of audience and see how fast it could populate.
So, okay, I want to hear about like what is Parchmate? Like what is the secret sauce of Parchmate? What's launching? When can we expect it? Like I want to hear everything about it because I know obviously it's a platform that's going to serve social media managers. It's going to serve content creators. So what's in there? Are you allowed to share everything that's in there? What phase are we in here?
Yeah. So the big turning point for us was when we actually brought on our like senior developer. His name is Chip. Shout out to Chip. Once we knew we had a developer in our team who could actually build the back end, because Austin is a front end developer, we were like, okay.
Can you explain that? Front end, back end, what the heck?
Yeah. So front end is essentially how like a web app or how your web browser looks.
Okay.
Whereas the back end has a lot more to do with the functionality and how buttons talk to each other and how data is stored, and maybe like the less aesthetic or design elements of it.
Sure.
And so Austin was like, I can maybe build what it looks like, but I don't know if I like feel confident enough to like handle people's data and like private information and all of that. And so once we knew that Chip was on board, we were like, okay, we can actually build what we originally were talking about, which was like a full management like workspace. And so then we completely pivoted from the service of me like creating content plans for people and completely pivoted into building now what Parchmate is, which is a full social media management platform. It's specifically designed for like social media managers who are running multiple Instagram accounts, but then also for content creators or solopreneurs who are managing maybe like a personal and a business account. And it focuses basically on 4 like main things. One being your content strategy. So establishing your pillars, your main categories of content that you want to share, brain dumping those ideas using AI assistance is an option, and then being able to store your media so that your phones aren't just like loaded up with client content or your own content.
Smart.
And then being able to create and schedule the content in like a calendar. So those are like the 4 main things that Parchmate allows you to do. Right now, it's tailored specifically towards Instagram, but we've talked about, the future. We'd love for it to have a little bit of meta going on where we can also manage your Facebook content, and then eventually would love like some Pinterest, maybe some TikTok, LinkedIn, Twitter, that kind of stuff.
And were you in Austin?
I just got to take a sneak peek at it with you on a week or 2 ago. It was so beautiful. I am also somebody that's like, it's pretty, I want it. If it's not pretty, I probably don't want it. It was beautiful, so easy to navigate, just like so user friendly. Everything was intuitive, and something I really loved so much about it was the integration of AI with the content creation planning, because I use ChatGPT for content, but there's just so much skill in learning how to prompt something correctly when you're like for content, as opposed to the AI within Parchmate was very like, no, this is I am a content creator AI. Like it was like very it was really cool to see how that worked, and that was something really exciting to me that stood out as I like got to watch the demo of it all, which was awesome.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Are you and Austin going to be full-time together in this like soon, or are you already now? Is he still at like where are you guys seeing yourself?
We both still have jobs. So we're currently building our first beta, which our timeline right now is like hopefully having like our first usable version of Parchmate by like midsummer. And then we'll launch to our beta group. And after that, we've kind of talked about like kicked some ideas around. I think the plan is to try to stay at our current jobs as long as possible. We're completely bootstrapping this project, so there's a lot of it's the only risk really is the time invested in this, and so we're hoping that we hit it pretty close to what we actually want it to be in this first revision or this first version, but anticipate there being like revisions as we get people in there and using it, which is what we want. But yeah, so the plan is to they'll both still be working, I'll be working, and I also now work I still have my social media clients. However, I dropped down to 1 and then took on a part-time job working for a creative agency here. And so I have a part-time job basically working with our ideal like user of Parchmate, which has been really cool.
Awesome. Is your beta program still available if people are interested in getting in it, or is it capped? What's going on with beta?
Yeah. So right now you can sign up for early access if you go to our landing page, parchmate.com, and sign up for that, and we'll be in touch with you individually. Basically, with our first launch or our first group, essentially we want a variety of users. We want like a couple solo content creators. We want people who are maybe managing 5 to 10 clients, and then would love to have some agencies who are managing more than that. So we can kind of have like a good balance of users and getting some like good feedback from different groups. But I feel like once we kind of get a good idea of where we're at with that, I don't know, the tech bros might come for me if I say this, but I would really love to like after that essentially like launch publicly. Like once we have the beta, I don't see there being a reason not to launch to everyone, like to the full, like to the public. But the boys might be like,
I don't see a reason, but the tech bros are like, Anna. They're like, Anna, can you get them to cut that out of the podcast? Yeah. Oh man. Oh, it's so cool. I'm just so excited to see where Parchmate goes. And truly, I think that the success that you found in your past businesses wasn't because of those businesses. It was because of you. And I just feel like anything you touch is going to turn to gold. And I know that Parchmate is going to be so amazing and it's going to serve people just like your last subscription service that you had did serve people. Like there was nothing, like you said, with those people that was like, this doesn't work for me or this isn't good enough. Like you have a real knack and talent for that market research and creating a product that people need. So I'm just so excited for you. Tell us where people can find you on Instagram and TikTok and all the places and Parchmate.
Yeah, so you can find me at It's Anna Comer on Instagram. I also have my website, annacomer.com. And then to find Parchmate, we're just at Parchmate on Instagram and TikTok, and our website is parchmate.com.
Awesome.
Love.
Okay,
Thank you so much, Anna.
To end with just like, if you could share, Anna, you've had so many pivots in your entrepreneurial journey. If you could share just a word of encouragement to close out the episode of any young person wanting to get into the social media space or start their journey as an entrepreneur, what would that encouragement be?
Oh my gosh.
Sorry, big on the spot question just to close you out. Anything.
Yeah. I feel like what's really common as young adults is we hear people say like, try everything, throw spaghetti at the wall, like, you know, just to see what sticks. And in reality, like that is essentially what you do. But also I will say like, don't overthink the things that you do because you literally have no idea what experience you're going to get having tried something or in like a certain environment or having known one person and that person connect you with someone else, to just not like sweat the actual individual things of what you're doing or what you're pursuing. And then also like to not be discouraged if it feels like you're taking a step backwards or if you're going into something that you said you would never do. Like don't be discouraged by it. Just like take it as it comes because you literally have no idea what doors of opportunity that could lead you to. And I say it like through this whole process, I'm like, there's no way I could sit here and build software for social media managers or content creators had I not had the last like 6 years of my life and the work that I've done. Like, and I wouldn't change any of it. But I also couldn't go back and tell myself 4 years ago that like, hey, you know, keep it up, like keep doing what you're doing, because I would have been so confused. Like, how are we going to get from point A to point B?
Right. Like it really all is experience, and the door that's opened with Parchmate is only opened because of all the other closed doors and the experience that you gained from all those other closed doors too, like led you to this place. Totally. So that's so good. Yeah. Thank you. All right. Well, we love you so much, Anna. Thank you so much for being here.
Love you guys.
And
thank you for having
we'll put all the information for you and Parchmate in the show notes for you guys, and go get in that beta program. Go DM.
Do it.
DM Anna. All right. Have a good day, you guys. We love you. Bye.